everybody. Welcome to Market Moves. I'm Jason, the Wizard of Ops, and my co-host here is Jay, aka Dark Matter. Jay, how you doing?
I'm doing amazing, Wiz. How's your weekend? How's your morning this today as well, Monday morning?
It was good. I mean, it was relatively low key weekend. Actually, a local high school here had a free carnival for their 20th anniversary, and bouncy houses and stuff. And my kids are bouncy house age, and we went over there. And out of nowhere, there was a tornado warning, so we had to shelter in place in the auditorium. Lots of seating and stuff, but the high school jazz band was playing, and I was thinking, this is the largest band. This is the largest audience they will ever play to. These kids. It's there's several, probably about 1,000 people packed into this auditorium, and they were on the stage playing jazz, and I was like, oh, good for them.
Hey, they had natural audience right there for them. So good practice.
Oh, so Jay, what do you got for us today?
Yeah, let's jump in and kind of get into the weekly outlook. I mean, I think last week, just to highlight, there's going to be when we have calm. I call it that is the calm last week. You're going to have a market that's going to play both sides, right? We pushed early in the week, with the Trump tariff, European pause, right? So we pushed from 5,800 to 5,850. Threaded there for a little while until Memorial Day completed. We pushed out of 5,850 then up until 5,900, and then NVIDIA earnings came, right? NVIDIA earnings pushed us up to 5,975. We never saw that in regular trading action, though. All of that was overnight. In futures action, we saw that move. So I think, there might be a similar story here going on. You just have a zone here. We got sellers above us, you got support below us, and now you're waiting for a catalyst is how I kind of, picture this and visualize this. So at a high level here, some of the key things that I'm kind of just looking into this week, looking forward to, and we'll go through our levels here in just a minute. In terms of data or any news release kind of catalysts, today, the ISM manufacturing PMI, we do have Fed Chair Powell speaking. I think he's at some forum of some kind. There's the European CPI, the JOLTS job openings. That's going to be an important one. Then Wednesday, we've got the ADP non-farm employment change, ISM services PMI. Thursday, the EU has their monetary policy and interest rate decision. The US has its unemployment claims that day. And then Friday, you've got kind of the major jobs data change. So those are our big catalysts. Obviously, anything withstanding what the Trump admin says, these are what to be on the lookout for this week. So jobs data heavy week. Any thoughts there?
I mean, jobs have not been reflecting poorly yet in the data, although I'm still kind of waiting for, we're starting to see government jobs kind of teeter a little bit. But if the government person accepted the buyout, then I don't think it even gets reflected yet. What is Fed Chair Powell speaking about today? Usually that kind of doesn't really do much, but sometimes it does. I don't know,
Yeah, let me pull it up. So he is going to be at the Federal Reserve's Board of Governors International Finance Division 75th anniversary conference.
Oh, so he's there for cake.
He should be there for just the cake, but never say never, right?
Right. He's there for the cake. All right. Hopefully it's a good cake. Maybe they got it at Wegmans, right? So
it's green.
Yeah. Yeah, for jobs, I mean, I think that jobs, number one, it's not as much of the concern as is the, inflation at this point. But number two, with the way seasonal adjustment is, do we even know what a good jobs report is anymore? Do we even know what an NFP, sometimes it misses by 200,000 one way or the other, and the market doesn't care. I don't think the market even knows what a good jobs report is. So I don't know.
I was sitting here, yesterday typing this report up, and I'm like, I had that same question to myself. I'm like, what's a good job state anymore? You
Yeah.
know, do we want good? Do we want bad? Like, what's the angle we're looking
What
for?
even is good? Is
Yeah.
good higher? Is good lower? We have no idea. All right.
All right. Okay. So those are kind of
Yeah. I
planned.
think the biggest catalysts are things that are not scheduled.
Surprising. That's
Yeah.
exactly what, I think I said in the Discord yesterday was if we're going to break essentially these two ranges, on either side, it's going to be a surprise that does it, not a planned event is how I look at it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I know earnings, Mag 7s are all out of the way, but just to call out, we've got CrowdStrike this week that I'm kind of just looking out for, and then Broadcom or at AVGO is another big one. At least on my end, I care about those two. They're kind of in some key tech sectors that I'd like to follow here, but any earnings thoughts on your end?
Not really. I think once Nvidia passes, Broadcom does have a Broadcom has some strong option traffic, but once Nvidia passes, for me, it's like option season is over.
Yeah, I'm with you. This will be our last one, this last earnings image that we see here until the next earnings season, because
Right.
there's not much after this week.
But
All
this
right,
is June. This is the last day of the second quarter, or last month of the second
sure,
quarter. So,
sure.
you got a month.
It's fair. That's true. It's gonna just whip up again all over again.
Mhm.
All right, let's get into the options expected move. It's about 107 points. So the market expects to move up to 6,018, or to the downside about 5804. Last week's upside range was 5928. We actually bumped. That was like I think somewhere near the highs of the regular trading session. So they're keeping within the range. So volatility is expected. There's no unexpected volatility, I should say, thus far. So if we push the boundaries of those levels, a surprise has occurred. Is how I look at this week. Just FYI.
Yeah, I
Uh,
I I would trade short gamma.
yeah. Okay. Good. All right. Let me just zoom ahead to a few slides here. So I think just let me pull this up and then we can go into Volland. I mean, our largest like support level that just kind of looking at the different variables, right? 5850 to me, like that's when I think the tide starts to turn. Like, if I'm scalping puts, they're intraday, they're scalps, and they're puts at scalping, and that's it. If I want something, if I think the market's going to unwind more, it has to start at 5850 is how I look at it, Wiz. If it doesn't start there, like I think this is just continuing to buy the dip this week with us, but going back to test essentially 5950, where we do have a lot of dealer unwinding that would occur at that level there. So there is a gamma pin at 5900. So if you've seen overnight action, we opened gap below 5900, went back and tested 5900, and I think even if I remember right, maybe like 15 minutes ago we tried to test it against Wiz and we rejected it again or came close to it. So that's going to be an important intraday level. I look at it, and there is this cluster of Vanna here that like think of like a vacuum getting sucked in. If we can get some volatility to compress, Vanna's going to pull us in right into this 5925 zone. And
Mhm.
we break that, that is going to go trigger some delta buying from dealers, pushing us towards 5950 then. I'll pause. Thoughts?
So every single one of these numbers is within the expected move of dealers. It's not, and that's kind of what I was saying. This is very short gamma. There's going to be very short gamma centric in this regime. Um, and it'll also be, I mean, 5950. I mean, you're going to go through Volland in a little bit, but 5950 is going to be a strong magnet. And I think that's where we're going to mean revert pretty much the rest of the month. We don't have to come back on this show for the next couple weeks. We're going to, spend more time talking about our weekend or whatever than we will be we will be Volland because this is the all expiration, but when you start drilling down into this week and into the June expiration, it's just 59.50. That's it. That's it.
Yeah.
That's your day.
Yeah, I mean, here's this week's Vanna there for you. And if I pull up also, this is June OPEX. June 20th is our OPEX, right? Yeah. So you've got 59.50 here. Obviously, this big 60.25 here, but I mean, this is the cluster, right? Like this is where the resistance starts forming right here. So I'm with you.
Yeah. I think this week and next week it's 59.50 all the way. So we'll see. We'll see how it pans out. But I think, and even like over the past couple of weeks, these little jolts from Trump or tariffs or, some court deciding Trump can't do tariffs or whatever, those jolts have always mean regressed. And I think this is going to be the same kind of thing all the way through June OPEX. I think my favorite development too is the taco trade, right? That's one of my favorites. I love that. Like
the fact that she asked that question, like good for good for her for having, the kahoonies to do that.
That was great. For viewers who may not be familiar, taco is Trump always chickens out. So like whatever he declares on his tariffs, fade that move because he will chicken out. So I mean,
have become so fun, haven't they?
Yeah. I love how the and it's mainly like financial press. There's certain things about financial press I don't like, but I do love their acronyms, like in the Mag 7 and the whatever trade and taco trade. Fantastic.
Well, I think just a side swerve here for us because I was looking at some clips of the taco news conference from a couple weeks ago, right? I think that like changed my algorithm in YouTube. So like over the weekend, I had like random taco videos pop up, right? And then I clicked on one of them and it was like Dubai tacos, right? And actually, I watched the video. It looked delicious. If you get a chance, take a look at Dubai tacos. All right.
Well, I'm gonna try to avoid putting that in my algorithm. If it mixes with what my kids do, we'll hear it's raining tacos quite a bit. But anyway, yeah. So I think overall, though, 59.50 is the mean reversion strike. I saw us going down today. I got excited because going down gets me further away from 59.50, and I could start applying some trades. After last month, I'm flat. My last month was it was mean reversion central, and I don't envy you day traders though, because every little tidbit of news you're like, oh, is this going to run all the way or is it going to come or what's going to happen, that kind of thing. And if you're fading those moves, you're doing it biting your lip. So so I don't envy the day traders, but for swing trading it's been great. It's just like you look at it and you're like, oh, market's gone down a bit, I could add.
Yeah.
And you got 3 weeks to make it back, and you usually make it back in like 2 days, 3 days. So
yeah, I mean, even some of those weeklies, right? You find like a level where you either short at the top, like last week. If you could trade futures, like Apollo called it overnight, right? He goes, we're at 59.75, 6,000 kind of range, right? And
Yeah.
we're like, this is where you short, right? And it was 6,000 ES, which was approximately 59.75 on the SPX, right? And you held that short overnight. You came, in the morning down 50 points from that level, right? I think we're close to low 59.50 at least. So, yeah, it to me, it's mean reversion unless we get a surprise. The surprise basically breaks those two levels, is how I look at it, right? And we will know. The announcement will come, but it's not planned. That's how I look at it. So unfortunately, this is the trading game. You got to hedge for those moments where something unexpected happens, right? So they're one of those moments, but this week at least I still see a buy the dip kind of scenario, at least targeting 59.50.
Yeah, if you're trading futures, you're biting your lip. You see that market go all the way up to 6,000. You're like, all right, sell. Like
Yeah.
short. All right, don't tell
That's
me.
right.
That kind of thing. Usually, I
Exactly.
find if you're walking away from your computer, saying, "All right, let's just let price do whatever you do," that's when you lose.
That's right.
That's when you
That's
know
right.
emotionally you've lost. Yeah. So I think 59.50 will be the sun, and the price will be the planets this time.
That's right. That's right. Sorry, my kids. I've got a sick babysitter here, so I've got like
A
a
sick
kid running.
babysitter.
A sick babysitter, which means no babysitter for my kid, right? So
Oh, I was like,
she is.
the babysitter's coming over sick, and you got to take
No,
care of the
no, the babysitter
babysitter.
did not come, and that's why I'm dealing with this kid running around my desk right now.
Oh, I didn't
So
even notice.
apologies
But
for
anyway.
that. All right. I mean, so again, just to recap,
Mhm.
for intraday, especially if we flip 5,900 here, this can run. There's going to be some, Vanna resistance at first, unless we see IV kind of compress here. But these are the levels to watch for on the week. Is how I would kind of look at it, Wiz.
Mhm.
Uh, in terms of trade setup, right? Like you can, if you were in futures, you waited for the reversal out of 58.80. I mean, we got close to 58.50, so that could have been your reversal trade there, and you're up almost 50 points at this point in time, right?
Yeah.
Otherwise, if you're not in a trade like myself right now, I did not trade overnight action, so I'll be honest and blunt about that. This is what I'm kind of looking for a long. Above 5,900 gets me to 15, 25, and 50 are kind of some targets there. Obviously, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, and it's going to occur at 58.80 is how I look at it now. Again, if I'm wrong, so
Mhm.
those are a little bit of the areas that I'm looking at, and what I'll be waiting for this morning when we open up. So I think the primary threat here is any surprises, which is an IV spike that as we said, we've not planned for. Could jobs finally be that macro kind of driver this week? I don't know. I don't have access to the data, but we will all find out in a couple of short days here. So yeah. Any final thoughts on your end,
Yeah.
Wiz?
No. Just basically, I'm gonna short gamma in 59.50 mean reversion. That's basically it.
Amazing.
Anybody have any questions? We have no questions again. So I mean that we're getting off early. We're getting off easy and early. So got
Well,
got quite a few
we,
viewers. I guess just people are and there's nothing too exciting for people to trade or comment on. So
we're just at a weird place, right? Like
mhm.
we've recouped a lot of this loss from the past, call it 2 months since
Yeah.
Liberation Day, right? Where if you notice, like where we sold that from the zone where the last time Jerome Powell came on and cut interest rates in December.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, what the hell? Why are we cutting interest rates this month? Right. So if you notice, like we haven't passed that zone ever since then. So like I think ultimately the catalyst, if you're bull to break back and hit new all-time highs, you're waiting on the Fed decision. What is the next one? How many cuts this year? Yada yada yada, right? So I think like that's the catalyst to the downside is there's many downside possibilities. I'll just leave it at as we've gone through more tariffs,
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
tax bill, right? And then let's say earnings reports next quarter just suck really badly. Like there's definitely a few more downside catalysts than upside catalysts, but that's the fun we play
Yeah.
in this market, right?
Well, I think in the market, as far as upside to get up to those all-time highs, I think that Trump will reach some deals if he reaches a deal with China, maybe, but it just doesn't seem that way. It doesn't seem like something like that is coming soon. So people are beginning to sell a lot of calls. I think a couple weeks ago we talked about reaching all-time highs possibility, and I see that possibility is greatly diminished now because people have been selling calls, which progressively drags us up, but not tremendously. And there's not a lot of support underneath. So
No.
I think that I think you're going to need a catalyst now in order to reach those all-time highs, and maybe deals can do it. But I think really what the market is truly looking for is an all clear from somebody trusted. Obviously, Trump is not really trusted as much on the economy anymore. Bessent maybe, but not really. I think the market is looking for something like Powell to speak out and say, the results of the tariffs have been felt or have passed, or and you're not going to get that for a couple months. So,
No.
so I think that at least a couple months. So I think really that's what the market is looking for, is like an all clear kind of feeling, right? Or some kind of what's the word? Affirmation that the market is not going to crash, the economy is not going to crash. And then, but the other thing too that we've noticed, I mean, if you go to all expiration, is this all expiration? Yeah.
Yeah.
You notice there's not a lot of put support below, and there's people selling puts underneath. So it's not like, I think there's this sense in the market, just looking at this, just looking at Volland, there's a sense in the market that mean reversion is, the little taco trade, mean reversion is the plan. And that, there's probably not going to be any kind of major market economic, crash or something from these tariffs. And honestly, I mean, between, I agree with Jamie Dimon and Ray Dalio, that there are two huge things. The tariffs are one thing to crash the economy, but also the deficit. And, both Diamond and Dalio and, several others that I've read have talked about how unsustainable it is and how economically catastrophic that, those two, forces are. And so we've kind of been, I don't know, lulled to sleep, or, the market seems to be taking that lightly.
Well, and I thought the market also took the tack, like at least what the House passed with the tax bill, whatever.
Yeah.
I thought. I mean, I know again it's the House; it's got to go through the Senate, and there will be changes there galore. But I think like that is the next biggest fight for the market, is what's going to come out of that thing, right? And at least myself, I'll just call out, what's going to happen to Medicare and Medicaid, right? And you start to take away programs like that and don't give a replacement, and jobs start to go down or salaries go down, right? Like how do people afford any of this anymore, right? So like I think there's just a bunch of gotchas there, and until some clarity comes, like this is just like a ping pong action going on
Yeah.
here.
Yeah. I feel like there's it's until something hurts, you know what I mean? It's just like the market is just waiting. The default is like that 59.50, but jobs come
Yeah.
in, negative 500,000, and there's no put support underneath. So,
Yeah.
and I think that the rug can be pulled on the whole economy pretty quickly. I mean, we saw what happened in 2008, even 2000. I mean, things can get pulled pretty quickly. We do have a question from Yuli, a frequent viewer. With regard to charm, I know it is delta decay of 1 day time passing, but why are the profiles different between the actual delta that the dealers are holding on the same time frame, 0 DTE? I don't quite understand the question. Do you understand the question?
Is the question that the 0 DT charm profile is different from the delta zero? Like that
I mean,
was the
okay,
only
so
thing.
charm is delta decay, and delta is, not all of delta on a 0 DTE is charm.
Correct. Yeah, that's what I was just going to say.
Not
Keep
only
going. Yep.
that, but also that, no, okay. Not only that, but also, if you have deltas that are in the money, those are going to be huge deltas on, from a calculation standpoint. But, we're not like showing the delta gap between expiration of, negative 100 or 100 delta of an in the money option versus the charm, I guess, extrinsic value, I guess, or, close to, premium or something like that. We're not showing that. This is, charm is decay, and it's not. Oh, not all of the deltas are decaying by charm. At the end of the day, so I think that answers your question. They are two different Greeks. They are not, they're not going to show the same, but that's kind of how. I hope I'm answering the right question.
I think you are, but that's why I was
Yeah.
hoping he would maybe comment, or he or she would comment back. Okay, yes, they said yes.
Okay. Good.
You nailed it. Great job.
Yeah. Lucky. Um, so here's the next question too that I have. What geopolitical events do you think would shake markets? Because I mean, I think the markets have generally ignored the Ukraine war at this point, and
Yep.
also it's kind of ignored the Gaza war. I think the markets have also kind of ignored the Trump's Middle East trip, which looked like, I mean, there were some significant things that happened on that trip, including lifting sanctions on Syria.
hmm
There was some significant, I guess you could say deals or whatever, giving access to American companies out, Boeing and NVIDIA, basically creating some competition in the AI space and what have you. I don't know what geopolitical events anymore does the market care about. It's almost like the market doesn't care until it does. If we do
I
see,
think
yeah, go ahead.
I think the closest one right now that I can just put the tip of my fingers on would be the Iran and Israel, right? Like if
Mhm.
Israel decides to go do something on their own, without the US's blessings, especially, like I think that can get out of hand really quickly, really fast, right? And not in a positive way, by any means. So like, and that thing can get dragged out. Like that could be our next Iraq, Afghanistan, is how I'd look at that. And I don't want to be 20 years in another war spending trillions of dollars, right? So like I think that is our closest thing right now, I would say. Otherwise, like, yeah, at least internationally, that's the gotcha right now. And obviously, whatever these tariffs, I think the main tariff thing right now is US and China. Like
Mhm.
all the other tariff news to me is just like, it is it is what it is, right? But you
Yeah, I
solve
think
China, that's the catalyst.
I think, yeah, probably from a sentiment standpoint, but I think Mexico and
True.
Canada are big ones too. But like, when he put on big tariffs on the EU, just the EU, that's like what, 27 nations now. Um, and when you add them all up, that becomes a lot of tariffs, a lot of imports. I think the difference though between them and China is um, we tend to import, and especially like in South America, Mexico kind of area, tend to import um, uh, unfinished goods from China and Mexico. And Europe, we tend to import finished goods. All right, so a Volvo is going to cost a little bit more, but at least it's not going to impact all the other cars. It's not going to be like steel or something like that we need to build something else.
Yep.
I'm actually, I guess the drawdown today, I guess, would be from the steel tariffs that Trump instituted at.
That was kind of my assumption as well,
Yeah,
when he announced that at like 6 p.m. on Friday.
yeah. So sitting there at some party or whatever. Um, yeah,
I
it's
wonder,
just kind of.
I kind of want to just be a fly in his brain sometimes.
I do
Think
not.
that could, I mean, come on, you gotta just imagine how entertaining that thing probably
I'm.
is.
I'd be interested, but it'd be
I
interesting.
mean,
But at least I
yeah.
actually, it's. I picture everybody crowding around Trump. So, Donald, what do we do? Like, what's up with these tariffs? The market's tanking. What are we doing? And then they like kind of zoom in, like inside out. They zoom into his head, and it's just like some guy playing the banjo with like a wheat thing sticking out of my, He's like, oh, but he looks like really pensive. Um,
This is what happens when you get a calm in the Trump admin when
Yeah.
it comes to the economies. We don't know what to talk about anymore because it's so calm lately.
Well, it's almost like the market, what normally is big news, the market has become numb to it. So,
Yeah,
oh, we got another comment from our buddy Jim Kramer. Are we bullish for
yeah.
June? Kramer, did you can't come? Did you come on? Did you come on late, man? We've been touting. You want to do a quick review, I guess, for
No, go
Kramer
ahead.
and all the. I mean, I think like we should start our shows maybe at 8:45 or 9 o'clock nowadays because that's when we get most of our viewers. Between the 8:30 and 8:45 time frame, we get like a couple, and then with doubles in like 5 minutes.
Yeah, I noticed that too. Maybe we do need to adjust. We'll talk to
We'll talk
Jim.
about that offline. Yeah,
That's right.
go ahead.
No, I mean, so Kramer, the big thing for this month or this week, let's just start with this week, right? Like
Mhm.
59.50. Look at the magnet here, right? We're still, by the dip kind of scenario here. 58.50 is my absolute bottom here, at least that I would like consider buying dips. And below that, we start to get in some weird kind of dealer positioning moves that will start occurring, in my opinion. So to me, 58.50, and we held above that overnight. We got to about 58.60-ish in overnight action. So we held that, and now we're kind of pumping our way back up to 5,900. But as Kramer says, and I do agree with him, if you're like a short-term dated trader, it's hard to hold through some of these tariff news, right? Like you expect more of a dip to come, and then like positive European news comes, right? Or hey, Nvidia earnings crushed, but then like the next day there's news and data releases, right, that tell you the opposite story. So like, definitely agree with you, Kramer. To me, how I've just been navigating, maybe I can take a minute there. Like,
Mhm.
I'm just going target to target was, to be quite honest with you. Like, last week when 58.50 held, I should have just created what I called my swings, which are like weekly swings. That was the level of hold, and it would cause this mean reversion back up towards 5,900 and then and so forth, right? So like that's how you got to think of these trades, even your swing trades. What used to be in the Biden administration, where you would sit for weeks, if not months, sometimes in positions, you're just not doing that anymore. Like some of your targets, even in those swings, they're getting met in a day, 2 days, 3 days, right? And you thought you're going to sit here for 2 weeks potentially in a trade. They're getting met quick and fast. And it doesn't mean there's going to be more coming. So don't think that. It hits that target, it hits your goal. Get
Mhm.
out. Just get out and look now for the next trade.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, you guys trade differently than I do. This market has been a lot more suited to my style of trading. Last month, like over the past May, I mean, I could talk a little bit. It's my
Yeah.
trades are over in the fund, but um, over May, I had a calendar on the downside, not too far out of the money, and a butterfly on the upside, not too far out of the money. And well, when I put on that butterfly, it was more out of the money, but we just kept mean reverting. And I left that on for like 3 weeks. And, there were times where I had to bite my lip, like, full disclosure. There was times where I was like, what am I going to do with this, and, of course, as a fund manager, I don't have very much in these trades, maybe maximum like 3-4%, right? But I held on to it for 3 weeks. Most of these trades, the only thing I would do is like maybe the calendar is a little bit out of the money. I'm going to roll it a little closer to keep, theta high, or my butterflies. I may roll it a little bit. Like I just kind of rolled them very slightly, very occasionally, right? And it was probably one of my better better trading months I've ever had because I just held on, and it
Yeah.
was the only time that I had to bite my lip was when there was those tariffs on the EU. And that was like, I went down to like just south of my calendar, and I had to think like, oh man, like what is the, what am I going to do now? Like, because if it goes down more, then I'm going to get crushed. But I decided, I'm going to hold on. It's stuck down there, and then taco trade. It came back, and I'm like, all right, it
This one came a lot quicker than the other ones, though. It took 2 days.
yeah. So I was like, all right, taco trade, it worked. So yeah, I mean, it was one of my better months. But I see what everybody else is trading, and people like you trading futures. You can't hold through that. Like, you can't hold
No,
through a 70-point drawdown. And
no.
even when you have your stops are getting blown, and you're executing like 5-6 points south of your stop because it's so thin in that area. Volume's so thin. So it's been helpful in my style of trading, but you futures traders and even equities traders can't imagine. I can't imagine how hard it is. So
Yeah, no, I mean, and this is, for those just curious how I'm trading, I kind of have typically two approaches, right? Like, I have obviously my 401k invest, retirements, just that's a
yeah.
separate bucket, right? Just throw that away. I have like a medium kind of like exposure, like a risk exposure, I call it. And then
Mhm.
I have like a very high exposure, right? And that's like my options account, my futures account. And then the other one is I don't trade options on that, but I do use Volland, for example, to look at key levels in stocks that I want to go buy into my portfolio, right? Or
Mhm.
even indices for that matter. So, and I don't, like everyone thinks here, like, because we're looking at options, you got to trade options. You
Yeah.
don't, right? Like, there's
Mhm.
people in our Discord there that use the data just to simply trade shares and stocks, right? So, like, if you think the game is going by too quick for you, too fast right now, the volatility is too much, get into the shares game, right? Like, it's a little bit safer, but vol can just be used as much with shares as it is with, with options. So, like,
Mhm.
I do, like, for my, call it that medium kind of exposure risk account, like that's what I look at for, when is the next buy in dip for Nvidia, for example, right? I
Yeah.
want to add exposure to that. So definitely there's few ways people can use this platform, and it's not just options, just to call it
Yeah.
out, especially short dated options as well.
Yeah. Yeah. The Yeah, so I mean, going forward, probably, again, my style, the way I trade, which is with options. I mean, I'm going to be doing short gamma, targeting 59.50 as my primary trade. I probably will have an out of the money kind of diagonal thing, deep out of the money. Um, it will cost me money to have it. I'm not going to do like a credit diagonal, but it would be a hedge. That's just a June July diagonal or something. It'll be hedging because there's not a lot of put support below. So just in case something happens, we start entering a trade war with Antarctica or something. Um, we we go down there, and it'll hedge my positioning. So that's what I'm going to do. Again, very short gamma. Every single one of your levels was below the market expected range. So
Yep,
short gamma is the way to go. So,
I agree.
all right. So I guess we're good. 10 after 9. We BS'd enough to go 10 minutes past 9 o'clock. Do you have any other final thoughts, Jay? Or I mean, we
No,
kind of said our piece already. So thank you, everybody, and may Volland help you in your future trading ventures.